Welcome to the Happiness Podcast. I'm Dr. Senam. We all want to live a happy life, and we try different things to accomplish that goal. But the truth is, so many things that we try work temporarily, but in the long run, they don't seem to really work. And we just struggle throughout life trying to figure out, how do we make this life of ours work? Well, sometimes we do come up with answers that seem to work, but then something comes along and messes it up. And then we're struggling again. We may think, well, if I go to college and get a good degree, I can get a job, and all will be well. We finish college, we get our job, and then we realize a lot of our money goes to expenses and just getting by. Or perhaps we want to find the love of our life, and we think when we do that, everything will be well, and then we do find that love. But we realize that love is complicated. It comes with things, perhaps past relationships, perhaps jealousy, perhaps fears. And what seems like would solve all our problems doesn't anymore. I think the big one that a lot of people look for is retirement. We'll work really hard for 20, 30, maybe 40 years, and then we can retire and live happily ever after. But when we retire, we realize, oh, I may not have as much money as I thought I needed. Or, oh, now I start having health problems because my body is aging, or some of my friends or my loved ones are passing because they're older too, and they're not with me anymore. Okay, enough with the negativity or the darkness. I want to give us a tool today that can help us, I believe, have a pretty good happy life. It's a very easy tool, it's just not easy to do. But if we understand it today, and then begin to implement it tomorrow, I do think our lives will go a lot better, and we'll find that whatever is going on in our lives will have a sense of peace and happiness in our hearts. But what is this special technique or tool that I can use to have a happier life? Again, it's quite simple. It's being the observer of everything in life, everything externally, everything internally, including ourselves. Be the observer of everything. What we tend to do is we have a lot of commentary about what we're observing. This is good, this is bad, this is stinky, this is horrible, this is wonderful, I like this. That's what we have all day long in most of our lives. The observer just observes somewhat like a scientist. There's no judgment, there's no critique, there's just an observation, a curiosity about what's happening without labeling it. Seeing things through fresh eyes. You know, when you watch young children, which I love to do, when they do something new, they're so curious. With time, they develop, I like this, I don't like that. But initially, the whole world is something new, and they're curious to discover what it is. Even when they fall and get hurt initially, they're not sure what to do. Their parents would say, oh, poor baby, oh, that's horrible, oh, come here, baby. And then they'll start crying. But initially, they're more surprised back. They don't know what to do there. It's a sense of wonder, a sense of, what is this? Is it bad? Is it good? What is it? And that's what we develop. We develop a curiosity, an observational curiosity about our lives, and everything that happens both externally and internally. It's a sense of watching what happens. Instead of needing things to go a certain way, or having expectations of what's going to happen. It's more the sense of, oh, this happened. How do I feel about that? Huh? That's interesting. What an interesting sensation I'm having. I'm very sad. But when we observe that sadness because we're just observing it, there's no story that gets created with it. So the sadness has an end. It doesn't just keep going on and on. That takes thoughts. The observation of the sadness is just that sadness. But when we start putting thoughts to it, then it can turn to depression. And depression is a thought disorder. We're thinking about things, saying they shouldn't be this way. This isn't right. This isn't fair. That's creating a story. The observation would just be, oh, this event happened. I feel tears in my eyes. They're coming down my cheek. And that felt good to let those tears flow. And now I feel better. I've shared this story before, but it's one of the most poignant stories of my life. I had a dog named Einstein that came with me to work for about 14 years. He was with me pretty continuously except when I was on vacation, so we had a very close bond. Well, when he got older, I could tell that he was coming towards the end of his life. And thankfully, I got to be with him when he passed. Well, when he passed, I didn't have any expectations of how I would feel. I just wanted to be with him and hold him, and I did. But what I noticed once he passed, the second he took his last breath, I just gave a wailing cry. That was the deepest, hardest cry that I had ever given in my entire life. It wasn't scary, it wasn't forced. It was just a natural state of release of sadness for losing him. And then I was fine. It lasted probably about 15 minutes, and it was over. I still missed him periodically, but I wasn't depressed at all. I was just very sad when he passed, and then I was better, and I observed that I didn't create a story about it. I just let it flow through me, and it was gone, and that's what life does. Life presents us all kinds of opportunity to observe all day long. Events are happening to us, and sometimes they elicit an emotional response. Sometimes it's anger, sometimes it's happiness, sometimes it's joy, sometimes it's fear. We observe that and we just observe it. And guess what? Because it doesn't have anything to stick onto. It passes, and then behind that observation, when we truly are observing throughout the day, what we will observe when there's no attachments, when there's no commenter, when there's just observation, what we'll observe inside is a peace, a very much tranquil peace that abides inside of us. That peace gets disturbed from our thoughts when we just observe the external world and the internal world without labels, without expectations. Just observing, what we'll find is, wow, I'm pretty peaceful inside, because when that peace is disturbed, it's only disturbed for a few moments, a few minutes. Sometimes again we get cut off on the freeway, or someone says something rude to us. We say, that was interesting. I felt a lot of anger when they said that to me. And then we move on. We're not creating this story about it. Why did they say that? That was so rude of them. Oh my goodness. What if they were right? What if they said was true? We don't do that. We just observe, and that observation has nothing to stick onto. So then we go to the next thing that's happening. Oh, I'm now eating my lunch, and I'm observing the food, how it tastes, how enjoyable it is. And we find that, oh, this is good, I enjoy this. And then we just go through life observing what is happening. And with that observation, what we find is the bumps of life, both up and down, come, but they don't stay very long. They pass, and we begin to find that overall, our mental state of happiness is good. It's getting a lot better. But like I said at the beginning of this talk, this is easy concept to explain. It is a hard concept to do because we just like our stories. We like to create stories. We like to get involved with stories. We like to perpetuate stories. We like to label things. We like to fight the world. We like to contest. We like to say this isn't fair. But at a deeper level, we don't like all of that actually. It's just habits we have in place. We've been taught throughout our life to label things, that things are supposed to be a certain way, and when they're not, we get upset, we get distraught, and when we have NGS going a certain way that are going well, then we get fearful because we do know that life changes. So then we start thinking about, well, what if this passes? What if this doesn't stay the same? It's not going to stay the same. So we'll be afraid when we just observe. There's no story being created. We just observe. And because no story is being created, things pass very quickly. We don't hang on to things. There's a story about a sage of old who loved his wife dearly. And one day she passed well. A few days later, a friend of his went to visit him to see how he was doing. And when he came to the door, he saw that his friend, who had just lost his wife a few days ago, was singing and playing an instrument. And he went to him and said, "What are you doing? Your wife just passed 3 days ago." And he said, "Yes, she passed and now I'm living. Of course I loved her, but she's passed and now I want to sing, so I'm singing." There's a sense of not hanging on to anything because we're just observing the events of our life and they unfold. And sometimes they bring up grief, sometimes they bring up sadness, sometimes sending up joy. And we observe that too. And because we're observing it, not labeling it, just observing it, what we'll find is it passes. It passes pretty quickly. And unfortunately, because we live in a world where people do create a lot of stories, people may judge us. They may see us as uncaring, as indifferent, as apathetic, but we're just not participating in the stories anymore. We're observing our feelings, and then we say, what do we want to do with that? Maybe we get angry, but because we're observing it, we don't have to act on that anger. We just observe, oh, I feel angry right now, and guess what? Because we're just observing it, it's going to pass quickly, because we're not creating a story with it. And so what will happen is we're going to find we get a lot less angry, we get a lot less sad, we a lot less manic. We just flow with life, because now we're just observing life, and when we observe life, it may seem to others as if we're indifferent, but what we'll find is, we will become truly participating in life without stories, and we'll find that life goes so much more smoothly when we do, that the ups and downs just have nothing to stick onto. We may have bumps, but they pass quickly. I'm talking in minutes now, where other people, because they're creating stories, they're just not observing their feelings or creating stories. Those stories can last for days, weeks, months, years. We know that a person's whole day can be run because of an event that happened in the morning, a fight they had with their spouse, or something happened along the way to work. And now their day in quotes is ruined, or they're concerned about something in the world, so they hear all the stories about that. And again, their day is ruined when we just observe ourselves primarily, and then the events around us, secondarily, will find that life is just a beautiful adventure, and we become super enjoyers of that life. So, how do we implement this? We just observe ourselves, what we feel inside, as we navigate life, and we observe the world around us. But when the stories come, when we start labeling things, when we start creating stories about our observations, then we stop and we say, just observe. No stories, no labels, no shoulds, no shouldn't, just observe. And what we'll find is this will pass, and probably pretty quickly. And we'll then find that when our lives get quieter and calmer, because we don't have all the stories, that deep inside of us is a deep peace that's always there, and we stop disturbing it with our thoughts, because now we're the observer of life. Thank you for joining me on the Happiness Podcast. If you'd like to learn more about the podcast, please go to happinesspodcast.org. And until next time, accept T is love. What is start me, Dr. Sanam.